Cinema has always been a battleground for censorship, pushing the boundaries of what is acceptable in its pursuit of raw, unfiltered human truth. While often dismissed by mainstream audiences as mere shock value, the films on this list use explicit sexuality not to titillate, but to explore the darkest recesses of the human psyche, obsession, grief, power, and existential despair. These 14 titles are not for the faint of heart. They are uncompromising works of art that strip away social veneers to reveal the primal forces that drive us. Let us explore the production secrets and narrative brilliance behind these essential, if challenging, masterpieces. Number 1. In the Realm of the Senses, 1976. This film is a harrowing, claustrophobic descent into obsessive love that blurs the line between passion and annihilation. Based on the notorious true story of Sada Abe from 1930s Japan, the narrative follows a former prostitute and the master of the house where she works as they withdraw entirely from the militaristic society around them. Their relationship consumes them, spiraling into a marathon of unsimulated sexual acts that serve as their only escape from reality. The tension in the film is suffocating. As their isolation deepens, the physical acts become increasingly dangerous, leading to a shocking, fatal climax that is etched into cinematic history. Directed by the provocateur Nagisa Oshima, this film was a deliberate challenge to the strict censorship laws of Japan. To bypass these restrictions, the film was officially registered as a French production, with the undeveloped film stock shipped to France for processing to avoid seizure by Japanese authorities. Historically, it remains a landmark in the battle against artistic censorship, celebrated for its refusal to cut away or soften the intensity of the actors' performances. Oshima's direction turns the act of sex into a political statement, a rejection of the rising fascism of the era in favor of a personal, destructive liberation. Number 2. Crash, 1996. Crash is a cold, metallic, and deeply disturbing examination of the intersection between technology and sexual desire. James Spader plays a film producer who, after surviving a car accident, falls in with a group of symphophiliacs, people who are sexually aroused by car crashes. The narrative is clinical and detached, observing its characters as they seek out increasingly violent collisions to feel something in a numbed, modernized world. The performances, particularly by Elias Koteas as the scar-covered cult leader Vaughn, are mesmerizingly creepy, portraying a humanity that has evolved into something synthetic and perverse. Directed by the master of body horror, David Cronenberg, and adapted from J.G. Ballard's novel, the film caused a massive scandal at the Cannes Film Festival. It was awarded a special jury prize for originality, for daring, and for audacity, despite being booed by some audience members. The production is noted for its icy cinematography and Howard Shore's haunting, electric guitar-heavy score, which underscores the film's themes of alienation. Historically, Crash is viewed as a prophetic masterpiece about our fetishistic relationship with machines and the desensitization of modern life. Number 3. Romance, 1999. Romance is a stark, intellectual, and physically explicit exploration of female desire and the void that separates love from sex. The story follows a schoolteacher who, frustrated by her boyfriend's lack of sexual interest, embarks on a series of encounters with strangers to understand her own physical needs. The film is unflinching in its depiction of her journey, which includes unsimulated sexual acts and a descent into S&M. However, unlike traditional erotica, the tone is philosophical and somber, focusing on the protagonist's internal monologue and her struggle to bridge the gap between her body and her mind. Directed by Catherine Breillat, a filmmaker known for her rigorous and often confrontational approach to gender politics, Romance was a watershed moment for the new French extremity movement. Breillat cast porn actor Rocco Siffredi in a lead role, a decision that blurred the boundaries between art house, cinema, and pornography. The film sparked intense debate upon its release regarding the male gaze and the portrayal of female agency. It is a significant work for its refusal to romanticize the sexual experience, presenting it instead as a raw, sometimes clinical, biological imperative. Number 4. The Piano Teacher, 2001. The Piano Teacher is a psychological tour de force that features one of the most fearless performances in the history of cinema by Isabelle Huppert. She plays Erika Kohut, a repressed and severe piano professor at a Vienna conservatory who lives with her domineering mother. Beneath her icy exterior lies a turbulent world of self-harm, voyeurism, and masochism. When a young, talented student pursues her, the power dynamic shifts violently, leading to a series of devastating emotional and physical confrontations. The film is a masterclass in tension, using silence and the rigors of classical music to contrast with the chaotic violence of Erica's inner life. Directed by Michael Haneke, a filmmaker who specializes in dissecting the comforts of the bourgeoisie, the film won the Grand Prix at Cannes, with both Huppert and her co-star Benoît Magimel winning acting awards. Based on the novel by Nobel Prize winner Elfriede Jelinek, the production is austere and unblinking, refusing to offer the audience any easy moral comfort. It is historically significant for its brutally honest depiction of female repression and the ways in which high culture can mask deep psychological pathology. Number 5. Betty Blue, 1986. Betty Blue is a vibrant, passionate, and tragic love story that became the defining cult film of the French Cinéma du Look movement. It tells the story of Zorg, a handyman, and Betty, a wild and unpredictable woman who moves in with him. Their relationship is fueled by an intense, consuming sexual chemistry that is depicted with a frankness rare for the time. As Betty's mental health deteriorates, Zorg's devotion is tested, turning their idyllic romance into a desperate struggle for survival. The film is famous for its opening sequence, a long, continuous take of the lovers in bed, which immediately establishes the film's intimacy and raw emotional stakes. Directed by Jean-Jacques Binek, the film is visually stunning, bathed in deep blues, oranges, and the golden light of the French coast. The score by Gabriel Yared is iconic, perfectly capturing the film's melancholic and feverish atmosphere. Nominated for an Academy Award and a Golden Globe for Best Foreign Language Film, Betty Blue launched the career of Béatrice Dalle, whose performance as the volatile Betty is nothing short of iconic. It remains a touchstone for cinema that prioritizes style, mood, and the devastating power of mad love. Number 6. Baise-Moi, 2000. Baise-Moi is a visceral punk rock explosion of rage that serves as a modern-day, nihilistic version of Thelma and Louise. The film follows two women, a sex worker and a porn actress, who, after suffering brutal sexual violence and societal rejection, go on a murderous rampage across France. The film combines unsimulated hardcore sex scenes with shocking acts of violence, creating a deliberately jarring and abrasive viewing experience. It is not a film that seeks to please. It is a scream of defiance from the margins of society, challenging the viewer to look at female rage without the filter of polite cinematic conventions. Co-directed by Virginie Despentes, who wrote the novel it is based on, and Coralie Trinthi, a former pornographic actress. The film was initially banned or heavily censored in many countries, including France. Its release provoked a national debate about the rating system and the distinction between art and obscenity. Shot on digital video, the production has a rough, guerrilla aesthetic that enhances its documentary-like realism. Historically, it is a key text in feminist film theory, representing a radical reclamation of the female body and a rejection of victimhood. Number 7. Shortbus, 2006. Shortbus is a compassionate, humorous, and deeply human ensemble drama that uses explicit, unsimulated sex to explore the emotional lives of New Yorkers in a post-9/11 world. The narrative revolves around a diverse group of characters, including a sex therapist who has never had an orgasm and a gay couple considering an open relationship, who converge at an underground salon called Shortbus. Unlike many films on this list that use sex to explore trauma or violence, Shortbus uses it to explore connection, joy, and vulnerability. The sexual scenes are woven organically into the plot, serving as pivotal moments of character development rather than mere spectacle. Directed by John Cameron Mitchell, the film was created through a collaborative workshop process where the actors helped develop their characters and the script. It premiered at the Cannes Film Festival and was praised for its warmth and its refusal to stigmatize sexuality. The production is notable for its vibrant, theatrical set design and a soundtrack featuring artists like Yola Tango. Historically, it challenged the American film industry's puritanical standards, proving that unsimulated sex could be used in a film that is fundamentally sweet, optimistic, and life-affirming. Number 8. Venus in Furs, 1969. This psychedelic fever dream of a thriller is a quintessential example of late 60s Euro cult cinema. Directed by the prolific Jesus Franco, the film stars James Darren as a jazz trumpeter who finds the body of a beautiful woman, played by Maria Rome, washed up on a beach. Later, he encounters her alive and is drawn into a surreal web of seduction and mystery. While loosely inspired by Leopold von Sacher-Masoch's novel, the film leans heavily into the visual language of the era, featuring hallucinogenic sequences, lush eroticism, and a haunting atmosphere of decay. The sexual content here is stylized, blending nudity with a sense of gothic dread and impending doom. Also known as paroxysmus, the film is visually distinct for its use of vibrant colors and distorted camera angles, trademarks of Jesus Franco's unique aesthetic. The score, a mix of jazz and psychedelic rock, adds to the disorienting, dreamlike quality of the narrative. Klaus Kinski delivers a typically intense supporting performance, adding a layer of menace to the proceedings. Historically, this film represents the transition point between the gothic horror of the 1960s and the more explicit exploitation cinema of the 1970s, serving as a fascinating artifact of the sexual revolution's impact on European genre film. Number 9. Liquid Sky, 1982. Liquid Sky is a bizarre, neon-soaked science fiction cult classic that captures the nihilistic energy of the New York New Wave scene. The plot concerns invisible aliens who land in a penthouse to feed on the endorphins released by humans during heroin use and orgasms. The film stars Anne Carlisle in a dual role as both Margaret, a cynical model, and Jimmy, an androgynous male model, both of whom become unwitting targets for the extraterrestrial visitors. The film is a kaleidoscope of drug use, fluid sexuality, and avant-garde fashion, presenting a world where gender is a performance and hedonism is a death sentence. Directed by Russian émigré Slava Zuckerman, the film was an independent smash hit, playing in theaters for years as a midnight movie. It is renowned for its unique visual style, which utilizes primitive but striking visual effects and a color palette dominated by fluorescent paints. The soundtrack, composed using an early Fairlight CMI synthesizer, is a masterpiece of dissonant electroclash that defines the film's edgy tone. Historically, Liquid Sky is a time capsule of the post-punk era, celebrated for its bold deconstruction of gender roles and its fearless, if cynical, depiction of urban decadence. Number 10. The Brown Bunny, 2003. The Brown Bunny is a meditative, melancholic road movie that became infamous for a single, unsimulated scene in its finale. Directed by and starring Vincent Gallo, the film follows a motorcycle racer named Bud Clay as he drives cross-country from New Hampshire to California, haunted by the memory of his lost love, Daisy. The narrative is sparse and existential, focusing on the landscape of America and the protagonist's profound loneliness. The tension builds slowly, relying on long, hypnotic takes of the road, leading to a reunion with Daisy, played by Chloe Sevigny, that is emotionally devastating and physically graphic. The film ignited a legendary feud between Vincent Gallo and critic Roger Ebert after its premiere at Cannes, where it was initially jeered. However, the film has since been re-evaluated by many as a raw and sincere expression of male grief and inadequacy. Shot on 16mm film, the cinematography has a grainy, timeless quality that evokes the new Hollywood cinema of the 1970s. Historically, it remains a polarizing work, but one that is essential for its fearless commitment to its director's singular, uncompromising vision of heartbreak. Number 11. Last Tango in Paris, 1972. Last Tango in Paris is a brooding, existential drama that features one of Marlon Brando's most vulnerable and explosive performances. He plays Paul, an American widower in Paris, who enters into an anonymous, purely sexual relationship with a young French woman, played by Maria Schneider. They meet in an empty apartment, agreeing to know nothing about each other's lives outside those walls. The film uses their aggressive, desperate sexual encounters to explore themes of grief, aging, and the impossibility of true communication. It is a film of raw, emotional violence, where the physical act is used as a weapon against the pain of existence. Directed by Bernardo Bertolucci, the film was a cultural phenomenon and a box office sensation, despite, or perhaps because of, the intense controversy surrounding its explicit content, particularly the infamous butter scene. The cinematography by Vittorio Storaro is legendary, bathing the decaying apartment in rich, golden hues that contrast with the emotional darkness of the characters. Historically, the film is complex. While praised as a masterpiece of 70s cinema, it has faced modern re-evaluation regarding the treatment of Maria Schneider during production, sparking important conversations about consent and the ethics of directing. Number 12. Salò, or The 120 Days of Sodom, 1975. Salò is widely considered one of the most disturbing and controversial films ever made. Transposing the Marquis de Sade's novel to the dying days of World War II, the film depicts four wealthy, corrupt libertines who kidnap a group of teenagers and subject them to months of physical, sexual, and psychological torture in a secluded villa. The film is not erotic in any traditional sense. It is a cold, systematic display of absolute power and degradation. The narrative serves as a brutal allegory for fascism, consumerism, and the way authority reduces human beings to objects for consumption. Directed by the legendary Pier Paolo Pasolini, This was his final film before his brutal murder, adding a layer of grim finality to the work. The production is meticulously framed, with Dante Ferretti's production design creating a terrifying contrast between the elegance of the villa and the atrocities committed within. It has been banned in numerous countries for decades due to its depictions of sexual sadism and coprophilia. Historically, Salò is an essential, if punishing, watch, a rigorous intellectual attack on the abuse of power that refuses to let the audience look away from the horror of total dehumanization. Number 13. The Story of O, 1975. The Story of O is a polished, high-budget adaptation of the famous erotic novel by Pauline Riege. The film tells the story of O, a fashion photographer who is taken by her lover to a chateau where she is trained in the art of submission. Unlike the gritty realism of other films on this list, this production presents a stylized, dreamlike world of BDSM, where the protagonist willingly accepts her objectification as a proof of love. The narrative explores the complex psychology of consent and the surrender of the self, presenting a controversial view of female sexuality that has sparked debate among feminists for decades. Directed by Just Jecken, who also helmed Emmanuel, the film is known for its lush, soft-focus cinematography and its elegant set design, which gives the proceedings a glossy, almost fairy tale aesthetic. The score creates a hypnotic atmosphere that softens the sharper edges of the subject matter. Historically, The Story of O attempted to bring the themes of sadomasochism into the mainstream, packaging them in a way that was palatable to general audiences of the 1970s while maintaining the core transgression of the source material. It remains a definitive example of the chic erotica of the era. Number 14. The Lover, 1992. The Lover is a visually exquisite, atmospheric adaptation of Marguerite Duras' semi-autobiographical novel. Set in 1920s French Indochina, the film details the illicit, intense affair between a teenage French girl and a wealthy Chinese heir, played by Tony Leung Ka-fai. The narrative is a delicate study of forbidden love, crossing the rigid lines of race, class, and age in a colonial society. The sexual encounters are depicted with a languid, humid intensity that mirrors the stifling heat of the setting, serving as the only space where the two characters can truly communicate and be equals. Directed by Jean-Jacques Annaud, the film is renowned for its breathtaking production values and its sensitive handling of the complex power dynamics at play. Jane March, in her debut role, delivers a performance of remarkable maturity, capturing the protagonist's transition from innocence to cynical experience. The film is narrated in a voiceover that retains the literary quality of Marguerite Duras' prose, adding a layer of memory and melancholy to the images. Historically, The Lover is celebrated for its ability to balance explicit eroticism with a poignant, historical romance, becoming a major international success that revitalized the genre of the literary erotic drama. These 14 films demonstrate that cinema's power lies not just in comfort, but in confrontation. From the political fury of Pier Paolo Pasolini to the melancholic romance of Jean-Jacques Annaud, these directors used explicit content to break down barriers and expose the raw nerves of the human condition. While they may shock and disturb, they also force us to question our own boundaries and the societal structures that govern our desires. We encourage you to approach these titles with an open mind and a strong stomach, for they contain some of the most potent imagery in film history.